I'm going to open it up to the audience now. So if you could get your hand up and wait for the mic to come to you, and I'll direct...
Do wait for it, because I'm a little deaf, and if I don't answer the question you asked, if I answer a different one, just ask it again. And I'll have a...
Two first hands that shot up were this lady on the second row here and this gentleman on the second row. So
okay.
If you could just wait for the mics to come to you.
Good evening, Sir Bornas. I wondered, is there a risk of a brain drain for scientists if government funding is not stepped up in the UK?
Britain is hugely attractive for overseas scientists because of our reputation, because of the way that we run both our universities and research institutes, because of the freedom we give to individuals. So it's very, very attractive. However, we are being funded at the bottom end of the percentage GDP. It's 0.49%, I happen to know that, and the average for advanced nations is 0.67%, nearly 50% higher.
So it's the lowest out of the G8 countries.
It's the lowest out of the G8, it's near the bottom of the OECD. And this is a serious issue. We do very good science, but we are just above dysfunctionality, and only just above. We can attract. We will lose some people going overseas because it's an international business. But in the institute I'm running now, we maybe have 1/3 from overseas that we've attracted in recent years. So if you're good scientists like to come and work with other good scientists. They're not normally driven too much by money, but of course they need to live. And London's hugely attractive, for example, for young scientists to come, but it's expensive for them to live. So we do need some money in the system, and we just have to get the government to push it up a bit more.
I remember you making a statement when the Scottish referendum was on that you supported, I believe you signed a letter supporting the union, which was maintained, and that was also to do with our relationship with, not just with the British Isles, but also with Europe. Is it fair to ask you this, in fact? Is it important for us as scientists that we maintain a relationship with Europe?
Thinking about the science question rather than the larger question, which is another political debate, that the bigger critical mass we have by being part of Europe is significantly important. The US is powerful partly because of its size, partly because of its money, partly because of its ability for anybody to work anywhere. And Europe does provide all of those elements to prosper the scientific endeavour. So I do think that science in Britain will be better off in Europe. I do think that.
Okay, and I suppose this is a follow-on question, but the constant debate that happens currently about immigration does have a relationship in some ways to science, which I think probably is the most international endeavour that there is, possibly football. But do we as scientists have a comment on that?
Linked with football.
Not
yes.
the football bit, the immigration bits.
It is hugely international. So in my lab at any one time, I normally have half my postdoctoral workers from overseas. It's very good for science because you get this cultural mixing. It's very imaginative. It really is a good thing. Now, actually, it's not so difficult for highly trained individuals to come to Britain to do science. It's cumbersome. I did a Cicero moment. I went to then David Willits to show how cumbersome it was, and I just took the form and the book and dumped it on his table, and it was this thick, you know. So it's like Cicero, you know, when he prosecuted Sicily, you know, some of you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, rather than having all the arguments, he just put it down there in a Cicero moment. And it is complicated, but you can get it. But the rhetoric that comes out puts people off. So I have to combat that rhetoric. It's not that it's difficult to do it, you can do it. It's a bit complex, but it's the rhetoric that puts people off. And we constantly trying to correct that.
Okay. So the second question was on the second row, and then down here. Go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. So, Sir Paul, now, especially in biomedical research, the issue of ethics is a big topic. So, and now as the science is advancing and we are going farther and farther, my question would be, where are the limits with respect to ethics, where the science should go, if there are any?
And that's a fabulous question for the head of the Crick Institute, where there's a particular technology which everyone's talking about at the moment called CRISPR, and a lot of it is being done in your new institute, isn't it?
Yes. So ethics are very important because, if I can generalise the point, scientists have to, what I say, earn their licence to operate. We can't simply assume that the public will support science and scientific research. We actually have to earn trust from the public. That means certain ways of behaving that will deserve that trust, and ethics is part of that. And I always argue that the pursuit of science is, in fact, a high calling. We have to be honest, we have to be skeptical and critical of ourselves, we have to be truthful, we have to operate to certain principles of operation. And if we don't, then we put our own operation in danger. So this means that we have to conduct our research in the highest possible standards. Where there are issues, which I think you were mainly referring to, which start to tread on long-established beliefs and traditions, like the start of life, the end of life, often science is only part of the contribution to that debate. So science can give some guidance, but in the end it has to be a political decision taken by the public as a whole. So the responsibility of the scientist in this quite complex arena of this type is that we should be identifying issues where there are complexity at an early stage, and the CRISPR-Cas genome editing, which is what Adam's referring to, is a case in point, and it has been identified early, so that we can have a public discussion about those issues. So when I was president of the society, I promoted a discussion between the Academy of Sciences in the US, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, I'm a foreign member of both of those, and also the Royal Society, which was held 2 weeks ago, just as I stepped down, so I wasn't actually there, to discuss exactly these issues. But then it becomes an issue for the public. So over the centuries, scientists have always been accused of going too far. Galileo went too far when he moved the Earth from being the centre of the universe, in experimental terms, to a planet orbiting the Sun. The Sun ended up being in the edge of a galaxy of many, many galaxies, but the Earth was moved away. That was revolutionary. Darwin did the same thing with special creation. So knowledge will lead to challenges, and those challenges have to be dealt with only by proper public debate.
Okay, let's see if we can get another couple of questions in.
I'm sorry, I went on a long time. It's an
Not at
important
all.
question, though.
Now, I did say, lady in the blue shirt.
I'll try and be quicker. Yes, sorry.
I know we've made a lot of progress, but what more do you think needs to be done to get girls into science careers, and particularly to keep women in science up to the highest levels?
Yeah, I do think we're working on that. My own daughter is a high-energy physicist at University College. I think the critical period, being practical, is childbearing age. And at the Crick Institute, I'm devising genuine half-time contracts for those who need them, which would include women having children, where they will be judged on half-time effort, because we are controlling the funding. And if we can get them through that 5 or 7 years, then they can come back with force. So that's my practical solution, one of many that one can apply.
And if you look at the archive of Inside Science from the BBC, from Radio 4, you will hear 3 interviews between me and him discussing this very issue over the last couple of years.
It's true.
I did give you quite a hard time on one of them, didn't I?
No.
Oh, fine.
Never give me a hard
So there was a question up in the aisle there.
Hi, I was just wondering if you had any advice for all young science hopefuls who are advancing to sort of university age.
The key point is, are you driven by this passion of wanting to know? And if you are, everything else is solved. This passionate curiosity that drives scientists, it's like a disease. If you have it, follow it. If you don't, perhaps you shouldn't be doing it.
That's good advice. We have time for one more question. So quickest hand up was there, third row.
Thank you. What do you see as the greatest challenge to overcome cancer next coming years or decades?
I think, yeah, that's not a short question. There are some clear environmental effects, by which I mean things like tobacco consumption, exposure to sun, which, if we control that, would significantly reduce immediately deaths due to cancer. So that is one thing. The second is, understanding the very complex gene networks that give rise to this disease and defining the ways you can intervene with them in specific ways, often in combinatorial ways, that is hitting more than one target. That depends upon knowledge. We are generating that knowledge, but it's still not fully developed. So that, I think, would be a second thing. The third, which is related to the first, is a prevention one. Avoiding certain things, keeping yourself healthy will help immediately. So it's a question of immediate effect with obvious things like not smoking, and then really still high quality science to know the disease and then work out how to handle it.
Well, we are out of time. I'm sure we could keep doing this for hours. I certainly could. But all that remains is for me to ask you to thank Sir Paul Nurse.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam.